The latest there from UNICEF. Let me quickly show you the live pictures from Ramallah, because large numbers of people there on the streets, protests after that blast we saw at the Jabalia refugee camp. So large numbers of people coming out onto the streets there in Ramallah in the West Bank. I'm back with more of the headlines, more of the developments here in just a moment. Don't go away.
Now on BBC News, the biggest African and international news stories. Focus on Africa.
Live from Nairobi, this is Focus on Africa on BBC News. Our top stories. King Charles and Queen Camilla have begun a 4-day state visit to Kenya amid calls for them to offer a public apology for colonial abuses.
We cannot live as prisoners of the past. Neither can we go far into the future if we turn our backs on history and historical actions.
Elsewhere, South Africa's record-breaking team get a hero's welcome on their return home in Johannesburg following their sensational Rugby World Cup win.
This win will inspire a lot of people, but it's not going to change how people are in circumstance. But for us as players, it's going to give us a platform that we can open more opportunities.
And also in the program, a new report accuses the social media platform Meta of inciting violence online during the 2-year civil war in Ethiopia's Tigray region.
And the algorithm is really the core reason why this continues to happen, why this content continues to be
Well, thanks for joining us. You're watching Focus on Africa. I'm Waihiga Mwaura. We want to take you straight to Kenya's State House, where a state banquet is being held in honor of Prince Charles and Queen Camilla. Let's listen in. A toast there at the state banquet at Kenya's State House, in attendance, of course, and being honored King Charles and Queen Camilla. And he finished there by stating, "Together we are stronger and a future more secure." Now, this visit has been billed by Buckingham Palace as an opportunity to look to the future and to build on ties between Britain and Kenya. It's not been well received, however, by activists who've been calling for an apology from the King for historical injustices committed during the colonial period. Well, the King and Queen arrived at State House in Nairobi for a ceremonial red carpet welcome by President William Ruto and the First Lady. Their Majesties then attended bilateral meetings with their hosts. King Charles later paid his respects to Kenya's fallen heroes, military and civilian, at the tomb of the unknown warrior in Nairobi's Uhuru Gardens National Monument and Museum. At the site, marked by an eternal flame, Charles touched a large wreath of white and lilac roses placed on the ground by 2 Kenyan officers. And a few minutes later, Mr. Ruto laid his wreath. Environmental issues are, of course, close to the King's heart, so he visited City Shamba, an urban farming project, and met tech startup bosses at the Nairobi Garage, a co-working space in the Kenyan capital. Well, as mentioned earlier, there have been rumblings about this visit. The Kenya Human Rights Commission has called for the monarch to make a formal apology for the Mau Mau uprising, one of the British Empire's bloodiest insurgencies. More than 10,000 people were killed and others were tortured. In 2013, the UK compensated more than 5,000 people in a deal worth £20 million. But as Ansoi now reports, not all the freedom fighters were paid, and the colonial past remains a thorny issue in Kenya. Well, joining us in studio now to further discuss this visit by the royal family is Nasongo Muliro, a foreign policy and security specialist at the Global Center for Policy and Strategy. Welcome to Focus on Africa, Nasongo. And you've just seen that piece there by Ansoi. Not all freedom fighters were paid. The colonial past still hangs over this visit. How do you think the royal family is navigating these matters so far? At the Global Center for Policy and Strategy, joining us on the program. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you.
Let's now take you elsewhere to South Africa, where the rugby team there arrived back home to a hero's welcome today after winning the World Cup for a record 4th time in France. It is the fourth time the Springboks have lifted the trophy, more than any other country. But what does this victory mean to those fans that gathered at the airport? Indeed, that excitement is truly palpable. So, will South Africa's success, however, lead to more interest in rugby union on the continent? That's what we want to find out now, and we can speak to Herbert Mensah, President of Rugby Africa, who joins me now from London. Herbert, thanks for your time on this. Were you surprised to see South Africa retaining the title is where I want us to begin. Herbert Mensah, thank you so much. Lots to think about in regards to what you've told us. The President of Rugby Africa joining us on Focus on Africa. Meanwhile, we've got a lot more lined up for you on the program. Here's what's still to come. Could Meta have stopped the spread of hate speech during the 2-year civil war in Tigray? Well, a new report blames the online giant. Thanks for staying with us. You're watching Focus on Africa. Meta, the parent company of Facebook, has been accused in a new report of contributing to violence against minority ethnic Tigrayans in Ethiopia. This is despite knowing the risks in the country during a 2-year civil war. This report by Amnesty International says that Meta failed to take measures to stop the spread of insightful videos online. The research was conducted between February and July 2023 using public information of Meta's internal documents, which were disclosed by a whistleblower to the United States Congress in October 2021. Earlier on, I spoke to Alia Al-Ghussan, a researcher and advisor at Amnesty International and one of the authors of the report. And I began by asking her what the main findings of the report were. Well, the BBC reached out to Meta for a reaction, but they did not respond. Well, you can get in touch with me and some of the team on social media with your feedback to today's program. I'm at Waihiga Mwaura. Email us on focusonafrica@bbc.co.uk. But feel free with your feedback. And thank you so much for tuning in. That's all the time we had for today's program. I'm Waihiga Mwaura. See you tomorrow.